The Loneliest Number. One day, Skarloey felt upset. The other engines couldn't understand why. "It's probably his cylinders bringing him down," said Rusty. "Mr. Hughes said they haven't had time to inspect them recently." "Perhaps it's just that he hasn't pulled many trains recently," remarked Peter Sam. "I'd be sad too, if I rarely got to stretch my wheels." "Pah," snorted Duncan. "More likely the old nuisance is loving the rest. But he pretends to be all miserable to get our sympathy." The engines argued and argued, but truthfully, none of them were right. Rheneas decided to have a word with the little old engine. "I haven't seen you like this in years," he remarked in the afternoon. "What's troubling you, old friend?" Skarloey sighed. "I've spent a lot of time in this shed as of late," he murmured. "The passing cleaners all try to cheer me up and polish my brass, but, well, they aren't like Nancy." There was a small moment of silence before Skarloey continued. "It feels like forever since I've seen her," he said wistfully. "Ever since she grew up and left for the Isle of Man, things here haven't been the same. The new cleaners make small talk with me, but they can't seem to have fun like Nancy did. I miss her dearly. It's been years since she's visited." Rheneas pondered for a moment. "Well, I'm sure she's doing well over there," he replied. "Last time we heard from her, she said she volunteers for the local railway. She even said she found herself a man, didn't she?" Skarloey chuckled. "Indeed," he grinned. "I just wish we could see her again." The two engines fell silent. As the other engines returned from their own work, they chatted for a long time, but Skarloey remained silent. The Fin controller knew about Skarloey and wanted to cheer him up. "We're planning to hold a special service for the next 3 Sundays, he told him kindly. "Many tourists shall be coming, and I think you will be the perfect fit to run the trains." "Thank you, sir," said Skarloey, managing a small smile. "That will be lovely." Indeed, many tourists did come. Even the fat controller and Lady Hat came. But alas, it was only a small distraction for Skarloey, as the lingering thought of Nancy still remained in his smoke box. "I do hope we can cheer him up somehow," said Rheneas, as Skarloey passed with his train. "One is the loneliest number, driver says," Sir Handel replied gravely, "and our number 1 is in a very sorry state indeed. Something will turn up and brighten his day, I'm sure." Sadly, it didn't seem like something would, and everyone tactfully left Skarloey to his thoughts. Soon, the last special Sunday service was being prepared. Skarloey simmered quietly with the coaches. "Ah well," he thought, "at least the passengers will be happy. That's what's most important." The guard blew their whistle, and Skarloey set off up the line. The journey was going splendidly. The coaches were singing happily, the rails were smooth, and everything seemed to be just the way it should be. This is good, chuffed Skarloey. "I'm sure Nancy will be pleased to see me now. If only—" "Whoa, old boy," shouted his driver. "Stop, stop!" Skarloey looked in front and noticed some people walking along the line. He put his brakes on and came to a gentle halt. There was a young lady, a smartly dressed gentleman, and what appeared to be their 2 daughters. Skarloey was furious. "What are you all playing at?" he cried. "You're trespassing on our railway, you know. We can't have you having a stroll along the line when there's work to be done." The father and daughter stared in confusion. but the mother seemed very annoyed. Huh, I would have thought I'd been allowed to have a walk along the railway I grew up at, she scoffed. I see you're still an old cross-patch, Skarloey. Skarloey was baffled, until he suddenly gasped. Is that you, Nancy? He exclaimed. Of course it is, you silly old engine, scolded Nancy. Who else would it be? Since when did you have children? Stuttered Skarloey, struggling to find the words. You only said you had a husband. And with a husband came these two rascals, Nancy snorted. Goodness, I hoped you would have gained more sense since our last visit. Skarloey and Nancy paused for a moment, and then they both started laughing. Some things never change, I suppose, chortled Skarloey. You're just as much of a fusspaw as you were young'un. And you're still as horrid as you've always been, retorted Nancy cheekily. The guard kindly let Nancy and her family ride in the brake van, and the train quickly started off again. When they reached the bottom station, the Thing controller was waiting. He pulled Nancy over to the side. Now, just because you've helped us in the past doesn't mean you can bring your family over for a line-side walk whenever you please, he told her. You should have told us you were coming. I thought it would be a nice surprise, said Nancy, ruefully. The kids were so desperate to meet Skarloey, and I wanted to show them just how lovely the line he helps run is. Skarloey beamed, and quickly forgot to be cross. Oh, it is wonderful to see you again, he told Nancy. I missed you very much. I certainly missed you too, replied Nancy. The engines at our home are all well and good, but they certainly haven't anything on you and the others. The two chuckled, as Rhaenyra puffed alongside his friend. Well, 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 he smiled. So much for one being the loneliest number, eh? Skarloey chuckled, as Nancy began telling her daughters all about the little old engines and how things were in the old days. It was a wonderful evening. Nancy was a common sight on the railway for a couple of weeks, until she and her family returned to their home. But from that point on, their visits were much more frequent, and there was certainly no more talk of missing her from Skarloey. He was a very happy engine indeed.